Skylakakis is not here yet, I should like to welcome Mrs. Lukia Sarandi, who is President of the Federation of Industries of Greece, and she is Managing Director of the wood factories, wood industry under the name Akratis. Of course, Honorable Professor Nikos Vetas, who is also General Director of the Foundation for Economic and Industrial Research, EOVE. Given that we have the next 30 minutes at our disposal to be able to carry out the works of this panel, I would like to start with, here we have Mr. Skylakakis, the Minister is here. Hello, welcome. So, as I was saying, we have half an hour to discuss. I would like to start with you, Minister. Let me find my notes. I think to have misplaced them. Here's my cheat sheet. I would like to ask you the first question that has to do with the overall idea concerning Greece 2.0, and as we saw from the comparative analysis by Deloitte, Greece has steadily been among the first ranks, among the first three all over Europe, depending absorption of the available funds from the RRF, the Resilience and Recovery Fund. This is quite encouraging in and of itself, and I believe that the project's implementation course does showcase the dynamic that has been showcased by the Greek entrepreneurial community and, of course, the government as regards the importance of this plan. Is there something that causes concern regarding the future of the implementation of this project? And, of course, given that there is a need to increase the rate of absorption of the funds over the next months, and, of course, whether there is what your feeling is about a revision or a reform that should be necessary by summer of 2023. Well, we have three questions. What is of concern? Well, everything is of concern when we have such a big project. The first phase was the phase of the design and the planning, and the phase of the reforms, which are mostly under the government's control in the sense that the design was our own work. It's something we did within the central government. And the same goes with the implementation of these reforms. Now, when we focus on the actual implementation of the program, we have two categories of actions primarily. One of them is the investment projects, which progress quite satisfactorily. As regards loans, we have overshot our targets. And we have gone over 8 billion euros worth of investment projects, and over 4 billion of those are in contracts already. By my calculations, within the next 4 months, we will have 90 to 95% of the rest of the projects in contracts. And we will have all the projects that will be filed by then. So we are far ahead. And we are the only country in Europe to have filed a third request for disbursement, which has been approved by the European Commission. No other country has filed, even in part, because we have filed a third request for disbursement regarding the loans. None of the other countries have done so, even in part. As regards the absorptions, the second category of actions, which is the absorptions of public projects, we have a large number of tenders that have just started or are underway. We're talking about hundreds of tenders over the next 4 months. They will be publicized, which there will start testing the response on behalf of the market on how much competition and participation there will be and how much interest, and what is the actual capacity of the market to correspond to a doubling of such an investment program, or an increase fourfold like in IT, or fivefold like in other cases. And therein will be shown the possibility, the capability of public administration to handle and manage, with all the measures we have taken, this new reality, let's call it that. Regarding the revision you talked about, we have in the pipeline revision work. We've already started drafting it. We firmly believe that within the first 6 months of the next year, together with the Repower EU, we will go forward with the revision work. Of course, this is slightly more complicated because of the elections that are forthcoming. They will probably be held in the same first 6 months of 2023. So we have a composite, complicated work that we need to do. In any case, 2023 will be a year of very high impact of the RRF on the Greek economy, both in terms of loans as well as in terms of projects and contracts. Hundreds of projects will start and will be paid for, and also hundreds of small, medium and large investments. All these things are investments. We're talking about an investment boom that will keep us outside the scope of recession and to maintain good growth rates this year as well. To give you a feeling, to give you a taste, we estimate that in 2023, whereas in the rest of the EU there will be a recession or a great slowdown, we will have growth rates of something like 19%. Right, so thank you very much, Minister, for this very positive note, and I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Sarandi, Honourable Mrs. Sarandi. As was showcased by the recent study of Deloitte, 9 in 10 companies, if you'd like, consider the RRF as a strategic and necessary means to strengthen Greek economy. And this alongside the remaining available financing tools and instruments like the NSRF, the investment law, etc. Do you believe that they will be fail-safes for the Greek companies, for Greek entrepreneurship in an international environment of intense insecurity?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kodis. Thank you for the kind invitation. It is the first time I take part in this conference in my capacity as the President of the Federation of Industries in Greece. It's quite honorary to be amongst such esteemed panelists. There is no doubt my reply is yes. These instruments will be extremely important. Greece has been through a 10-year period of disinvestment. This fund represents an amazing opportunity. What we normally say, this is a lifetime opportunity. It comes once every 100 years. Many people describe this fund as a new Marshall Plan for Greece. I don't think they exaggerate. And we are looking forward to what the minister said before. Actually, what he said is really important. We're looking forward to welcoming many organizations and companies in this project. Greece has registered an amazing growth rate. They used to say 3%, now it's a growth rate of 6%. So it was a very happy surprise on behalf of Greece. The same happens with exports. So we're moving against the current, if I may say. And it seems we will keep on moving like that, according to Mr. Patelis, what Mr. Patelis said before, what the alternate minister just said. So, to give you an exact answer, the fund is very significant, both because of its size and the targeted actions it includes. This is very important. We, the Federation of Industries of Greece, believe that it will change. It will help us change the gear in the economy, and especially the component of green growth and digital transformation. Both these sectors mean the world, and companies are eagerly waiting for this fund to kick off, so they may become eligible and get integrated or included in this project. So we believe that there has to be a priority given mainly to production-related projects. It will help a lot if include these kind of projects first, so we can change our production model, the productive model of the Greek economy. We dearly need something like that. In order not to squander lots of your time, we think the precondition for success is to have good coordination between the private sector, the public sector, and the critical aspect of coordination that relates to the banks. This is very, very important so that we can move swiftly and avoid any bottlenecks. I'd like to make a comment about the design. The minister said so. The plan has been designed with the pandemics being at the core of it. Now we have to move forward and think about other things. The Repower EU plan is perhaps the most important thing because the issue of an energy crisis is currently tormenting our country and especially the industries. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Mrs. Saradi. On the spot comments. Mr. Vetas. Question to you now. The opportunities included or presented by the fund are quite obvious with respect to helping the Greek economy grow and create a competitive ecosystem that will help change our productive model. Do you believe that we are on the right track in order to create a competitive business landscape, taking also into account the recent developments, according to which EU is about to face a recession, the increased volatility internationally speaking, and the inflationary pressures and the geopolitical developments, also the energy costs, as Mrs. Saradi rightly commented on. The minister said before that should we not have the expected growth rate, the expected rate of FDIs for the Greek economy, our growth rate would have not been positive. Actually, if it would have been zero, if not negative. So the RRF plays a very pivotal role with respect to the industries it supports and the organizations that are eligible. That's one thing. The second thing, half of the battle has already been given when it comes to the RF, in the sense that the positive developments in our economy and in other less competitive economies but equally vulnerable wouldn't have been the case if it wasn't for the fund. So many of the investments already landing in Greece, they do so because they see that there is an opportunity in Greece, and because we do have the European backup, if you like, or support. This wasn't the case in the past. So the RRF includes both money for investments, but it also emits a message. And this message is quite strong. The message of stability. There is a doubt, however, when it comes with respect to the implementation. In terms of implementation, I'm less worried than many others, in the sense that the Greek economy is hungry for investments, if I may use the term. It is like a sponge waiting for some water to be absorbed. And at the same time, both the private sector and the public administration is quite experienced, actually more experienced than other countries in implementing such projects, not just because we've been through 3 bailout agreements already, so we do know how to manage conditionalities, etc. But we are a country that is ready to welcome these European funds, and we know how to handle them. So I'm not that worried. The minister said we should be worried as well, but I'm not that worried. What would worry me a lot would be the following. The investments to come should be coupled with the ones that have already taken place, and it would mean the world for me to change the quality of our economy. I think this is a bit a thorny issue to discuss. So in this first round of discussion, allow me to add the following insight. change of the productive model means that you have to couple your economy with global developments, financial developments. I mean, you might have great revenues if you have more capital, working capital in your country, if you have more investments, etc. But if in order for you to register some systematic growth, and this labor, this capital has to be allocated to the right places. In other words, it has to create value or added value, if you like. So you might spend many hours working, you might struggle, but at the end of the day, you might enjoy a very narrow margin. But if you allocate this money in domains, in industries where you excel, where you are one of the global champions, you won't just get some reward for your work or for your investment. You're going to get some extra reward, some extra return that will be disseminated within the economy, the workers, etc., because you will be the businessman who will be able to produce something that is internationally competitive. So in this sense, this is how high we should set the bar. Otherwise, the fund will be over. It will have a positive impact on the country, yes, but I will use a term champions. It's not the right one, but anyway, it won't allow us to build champions that will be able to become peers or with top organizations globally. Thank you, Professor Vetas. Some really important comments. And it brings us to the second round of discussion about the developmental component of the fund. Dear Minister, more than 210 investment plans worth of 2.8 billion euros, 8.22 billion euros, and we saw that the Greek plan includes the largest component of loans vis-à-vis the total funds earmarked compared to other EU member states. So, as Mr. Vetas urged us before, do you believe that the development aspect of the RRF will be an innovative instrument for Greek companies today in order to compete against international organizations and their competitors, at least at the financial level, in order to underpin the recovery of the Greek economy and the Greek business world? Let me tell you the following. This plan has already registered success that was well beyond what we expected. So we attained our goals. We have investment projects already submitted that go well beyond anything the Greek government, the Greek state has seen in the past decades in terms of development law. And their size exceeds our forecast, and we still have a long way ahead because this plan will reach 25 to 30 billion euros, and now we are close to 8 billion euros. But when you have already covered 1/3 of the way in the first 6-7 months, this means you've been a long way. You've covered a long distance. The change in the interest rates has played a very important role because suddenly organizations found out the importance of this plan. The plan has been drafted way back in the past, and now we feel the repercussions. But now there's a strong possibility that this plan will deliver not just for 6 years or 5 years, from 22 to 27 as originally planned. It will deliver for 3 years or 4 years only. So the funds will be, let's say, used sooner than expected. We will see about that. The plan itself included some main priorities. A, there is no red tape at all, at least stemming from the state. There is some red tape that is necessary in order for a bank loan to be granted. That's the only red tape included or involved. 10 days, 20 days of waiting. The maximum. This is how many days the auditor or the controller will need in order to give the green light for loan disbursement. It's the first time that the state gives money pari passu with the banks. the state doesn't guarantee anything. I don't know if that's the first time ever, but it's quite innovative. And there is an additional point of, let's say, radical of breakthrough approach, because this plan is quite beneficial with respect to the things we can incorporate. For instance, for the first time, working capital and marketing expenditure or VAT costs represent components of that are integral parts of a business or investment plan. So they have to be taken into account and be co-financed. This is what this plan actually does. You won't find it in any other developmental law in the past. Last, this plan, and I want to stress that this is a plan that for many countries are looking up to. I have already shared some insights to the Lithuanian government following their request. The same with the Spanish government. They share the same concerns because this plan is one of a kind in Europe. And it is also interesting that this plan includes some really low-level subsidies. High subsidies mean additional burden to the taxpayer. The taxpayer is interested in getting the best investments with the least subsidy included or provided. The old approach that high subsidy is good for entrepreneurship, it's something that in practice was proven not to be right. It doesn't apply because this way we proceed with more investments that we actually need. Because if you get a subsidy of 5 or 6%, and these subsidies are included in the recovery plan, in the component of loans to big organizations, and you get another subsidy of 50%, this 5% means that you will invest 10 times more than what you do with a 50% subsidy. So you can get multiplying a factor of 10 in the number of investments that performed, the impact on the labor market, etc. And that's why we invest, actually. Second, large subsidies have proven in the past that they used to lead to bad investment decisions because they were so attractive, so tempting that we ended up with failing businesses and happy businessmen. Thank you very much, dear Minister. Mrs. Saradi, given that more than half of Greek companies that took part in our survey are willing to make use of the loan part, the loan component of the plan, do you believe that this is also a guarantee for their strengthening in a context of international uncertainty and high leverage costs, as the Minister said before? Undoubtedly, this will play a role. It is a determining factor, especially in a high interest rate environment. We see that they are rising. They will keep on rising for some time to be, and it's important for organizations to have access to investment funds with very beneficial borrowing terms, apologies. Let me add one more thing in that. As we said before, following these terrible 10 years of crisis, we have specific organizations that are still working, they are delivering, they have some good results, but for some reasons they are not eligible. And I was really happy to hear Mrs. Hadjipetrou saying that there will be certain instruments, facilities deployed to satisfy this need. And talking with our members in the Federation of Industries of Greece, I see there is some concern because it is very important for most of our members to be able to take part in this effort, as many companies as possible. The terms of bankability, as currently stipulated for certain companies, are not met by companies that are complying with the tax and fiscal obligations, and they have a growth rate, etc. So we have to be concerned about that. If we can further expand this criteria, if we like, as Mrs. Hatzipetrou mentioned before. Last, let me also say one more thing, that the side effects of the fund are huge. Even those companies that won't be able to use the funds, the money coming from the fund, they will be able to enjoy the side effects of the RRF. We're talking about the digital infrastructure and other repercussions, and of course the fact that everybody will be able to enjoy the benefits of the implementation of this fund.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sarandi. What I would like to do now is ask Mr. Vettas a question. The need for this increased rate of investments that was mentioned by the previous two speakers, primarily due to the pandemic, the energy crisis, etc., is actually a fact. It's a given. Do you believe, Mr. Vettas, that the vertical connection of this direct investments that are necessary alongside the domestic industry, the domestic innovation ecosystem, the infrastructures, are these this necessary factor so that the RRF will not simply be an ephemeral solution and that will allow the Greek financial and entrepreneurial fact to project into the future with a much greater potential and capacity? What is your opinion, sir? Well, it's a rather complex question, a rather composite one. It sets all the prerequisites for this plan to go well. I would like to, draw on the word you used, innovation. We do use innovation wherever we can in each and every paragraph of our discourse, but it is actually the key to allow for new value to be created rather than be always running around oneself and standing where they are. We're quite low in innovation, and there's a host of reasons for that. We're a country that has a very small internal market, and it will keep on having a small internal market. It is a prerequisite for innovation for the companies and the enterprises to turn outwardly. But this is not easy to do. It happened with woes and with difficulty through the 10 years of the financial crisis, because our country always was followed by a question mark, and there was lack of funding, and because of the brain drain. This is something that is currently being reversed over the past few years, but a key requirement for one to innovate is for one to take risks. Innovation does not mean I know what to do, because if I did know what to do, everyone would. It means I change what I do by assuming some risks. And there is a reason why Greek enterprises systematically take fewer risks than those of other countries that we should be comparing against, from Israel to Finland and from Spain to even countries of the former Eastern Bloc. The reason for this is because of the malleability and the flexibility of the administrative and the taxation environment within the country. This is the link that we've been making in the EOV, in the Foundation for Economic and Industrial Research, even before my time, before my tenure. The interlink between the Greek state, the public sector, and entrepreneurship. The work of the Greek state and the public sector is to have stable rules, and the work of entrepreneurship is to use these rules and these terms to take the necessary risks and to disperse and to diffuse fees, wages, and salaries, remunerations, if you will, because there are many steps taken forward. And it's very important for these to be consolidated and to be perceived as a stability. If this happens, it will allow businesses to take risks. Some will fail, some will succeed. Therein lie all the rest of the elements you mentioned. However, I believe that the impact of the RRF will be a positive one for the country. What needs some effort that surpasses the government is to put it in another trajectory, if I may. The ambition should be for the actual income of a Greek person working for a company in Greece, which is at the moment 1,000 euros. At the end of the program, in 4 years' time or in 5 years' time, whenever it's over, for this 1,000 euros to be 2,000 euros net without inflation. This means increase in productivity. It has been achieved by other countries, and this is what it means to converge to the average of the EU, truly. Thank you very much, Mr. Vetas. I would like to thank the rest of the panelists for this very fertile discussion we had and the exchange of views. Unfortunately, we did not manage in this brief amount of time to talk about the very strong reform work that is included by the RRF, and which, in essence, will be able to provide a guarantee for 2026 and onwards for Greece to become again an international investment destination and attract foreign direct investment. But I believe that with what we all said today, all of us, we made it perfectly clear that the Greece 2.0 national plan is the only opportunity offered to Greece at the time to change the productive model. For a Greece that, in essence, will be a Greece of tomorrow. It will be a more digital country, more green, but also more resilient, and a productive model that will focus on man and human skills. I should like to thank you. If the Minister would like to say a few words? Well, 30 seconds, if I may. I'd like to say that reform is the big difference in the RRF as compared to the other European funding resources. This government has made its mind. It's decided not to implement all these reforms as we have seen from all the assessments, evaluations and all the successfully met landmarks, but also to bring about new reforms. These are what change the GDP of the country. The importance is not the inflow of money. What counts is the effectiveness with which we use this money, and we need to always remember that reform is not something theoretical. It's the increase of the efficiency and effectiveness of an entire system. Thank you very much, Mrs. Sarandi, Minister, Mr. Vetas. Thank you all very much for participating.